Hello everyone, nice to have you all back for another episode of our 107 channel. Today's topic: replacement entirely of the assembly of the mixture regulator, air mass flow sensor and flow divider. The entire assembly in one piece. Right here, the refurbished assembly sitting on the trunk. All components have been rebuilt. We will change the entire, let me call it, combo on a 560 SL right after introduction.
Intro.
Welcome to the engine bay. Before changing the assembly, some other jobs need to be done prior, such as disconnecting the 8 fuel lines, the reflow lines, vacuum hose, unbolting the baffle plate potentiometer, electro-hydraulic actuator right here. After having done that, we can unbolt these 4 bolts which hold this assembly of components in place. How to unbolt the flow divider was the topic in an earlier video. The link to the video is shown in the video description below. I will get this job done quickly so we can move on with the tutorial. Please remember, when disconnecting the fuel lines, use an open end wrench to avoid damaging the nuts, because once they are damaged, it is a tedious job replacing them or changing a part of the fuel line. Hey, that was fast. All fuel lines are being disconnected, reflow lines, in addition all lines to the injectors as well. To get to all 4 bolts easily, have a look at the drop down pictures on the left hand side. Right underneath the baffle plate potentiometer, left underneath the electro-hydraulic actuator, and front left and right at the bottom of the semi-dome-shaped housing of the baffle plate, being held in place with only 4 bolts, nota bene not this bolt right here, close to the air mass flow sensor and mixture regulator. I'm talking about this one here at the very corner of the assembly, at the rear, below. The EHI. Simply unbolt this component for easy reach of the bolt. But this idle speed regulator has to go before as well, to avoid struggling when lifting off the assembly. A small ratchet and a torque socket will do to unbolt this component. Sometimes a Phillips socket, depends on what has been used before. In another video we have dismantled and calibrated the EHA. Link to the video is below. Once this component is gone, you easily reach the large bolt in the corner. Make sure you do not lose or damage the sealings of the EHI. On the other side, the potentiometer needs to be disconnected. Potentiometer is plugged off, and this idle speed regulator as well. We start loosening the 4 bolts, starting with this one here. There is no order to be respected, you start wherever you want. This one here is next. Last one of 4, this one right here. Last thing to do, it is a little tricky, we need to remove the hose clamp right here below. A little hard to reach depending on the position of the clamp. You can give it a try from above by using a small ratchet. Please see drop down picture on the left hand side. If it does not work this way, try to use your longest Phillips to loosen that screw by sliding it in right next to the fan. You're now somewhere in between the water pump and the ignition distributor. There is a short sequence in the video, a blow up, to show you that clamp enlarged. See what I mean? That's the one. Once you got rid of the clamp, you carefully lift off the assembly. We then have a closer look at it. Look at this, needs a little cleaning underneath here. A hoover will do this job. Dead leaves, nutshells. Once I cleaned in here, we put in the new assembly. Later on, we need to be careful. We do not want to squeeze the rubber lip seal which is sitting around that rim. Once we are around here and we have access, let us check the vacuum lines for porosity. This one here is the old one that we fit into the car. This one here, the old one, spare part number starts with a 116. Sometimes this bottom part has cracks and sucks air through the cracks, which is altering the fuel-air mixture. You get some components to change and regulate this mixture, but once you got cracks in the bottom housing, you hardly get the mixture right. You can buy this housing separately, of course. Here is the spare part number. This is the new assembly. They found a much better solution to fasten the hose clamp by turning the screw 90 degrees to the top to tighten the hose. Meanwhile, the old clamp had to be fastened sideways. Really an improvement. Thank you, God of the benzos. Hello, new assembly, 3 components in one piece and one go. Take your time. The lip of the black rubber bottom part has to sit snugly around that aluminium rim below the baffle plate. Try not to squeeze the vacuum pipe that goes to the pressure accumulator. Wobble wobble, wiggle wiggle needs to sit snugly and tight. For God's sake, I hope the screw of the hose clamp is in the right position. God of the benzos, make it happen, please, please. To make sure the semi-dome of the front assembly is sitting tightly on the seats, take a rubber hammer and knock gently on the aluminium. Like this, the thread is protruding perfectly and evenly to be tightened with the 4 bolts. Looks okay, some washers, off we go. And do not forget to fasten that screw of that hose clamp below. All 4 screws are tightened with some 10 newtons. Fuel lines need to be tightened with a 10 to 15 newtons. At the fuel divider, we now connect the accumulator. Flow lines back to the tank as well, the works. And then the high pressure lines to the injectors. All pipes and hoses connected. Idle speed needs to be regulated. Still a little unstable, but I get that fixed. This is the old one that did not work no more. Baffle plate was seized. The CO regulating screw was disintegrated. Very strange actually. The membranes within the fuel divider were broken and the center piston sitting in its tubular housing was disabled because of fuel gunk and residue of fuel over the years. We can say that this assembly had multiple problems to be solved. As mentioned earlier on, check the bottom rubber housing for cracks, which allow undesired air intrusion. This really is important. Oh, another tricky part. When you unbolt the 4 bolts, do mark them because they have different lengths and cannot be interchanged. Do mark them and put them in the right and appropriate hole. Car is running nicely, idle has the right revs and running steadily and stable. I now publish my videos on Sundays instead of Wednesdays. Please subscribe and give me a thumb up. Thank you for your support. Bye bye everyone. I hope you have liked it.